we have my good friend from FS1 on loan from FS1.
Hi, buddy.
First things first. There he is.
Good to see you.
Nick Wright. Nick, I knew you when I knew you when you didn't have hair.
Well, that's true. That's true. I didn't have hair really until the pandemic. From when I was 12 years old until right before the pandemic, I had a shaved head. And now I have this glorious hair, so glorious people think it's fake. I get DMs from people. They're like, where'd you go? What'd you do? And I was like, I just stopped going to the barber. I want to tell one very quick story about Mike Florio before we start because we might end up arguing. In 2007, I graduated Syracuse and went back to Kansas City and started doing a weekend show on, at the time, before obviously I helped raise it to prominence, the second-rate local sports talk station. Shortly thereafter, Mike, once I got a night show, started joining me and was a regular guest either on my night show or then midday show and did it for free. And about a year or two into him coming on, the bigger station reached out to Mike and not only asked if he would start going on with them, but offered to pay him. I was paying him nothing, and this was well before Mike had, NBC and author riches from all of his books that I'm sure are widely profitable. And Mike reached out to me and said, hey, I want to let you know these people reached out and they offered to pay me, and I told him no because I'm loyal to you. And that always, to me, said a lot about who you are, which is why so many of your Chiefs conspiracies just make me so mad, because you're such a good guy otherwise, and it just kills me.
But
good to see you, Mike.
But why would you take shots at me on Twitter after telling that heartwarming story, of which I had completely forgotten? I don't even remember that. It doesn't even sound like me.
Not personal. Listen, I always tried to preface my shots, as you would put it, with my friend or he's better than this or whatever. But I get a little worked up at times, and I'm glad we worked it out. On that note, I am curious if your people who were so convinced the NFL was protecting the Rashee Rice generated TV ratings for the big, early season slate, did they reach out and say, damn NFL, protecting the Jalen Carter generated TV ratings from that same game, the big Fox game that had 34 million people, or were they curiously silent when for the first time in NFL history a player was suspended for a game he was allowed to play in?
No, look, they were silent, as you can imagine, and the reality was, and when we had our conversation about this, I said the reason people are upset is because this business usually gets handled before week one, and it was glaring that a situation that had been lingering for months, and I'd had media people asking me, why are they letting this guy play? And I've had to explain to people, look, they don't take any final action under the personal conduct policy until the criminal case is over. The criminal case is still pending. They didn't put him on paid leave. That's why they haven't done anything. Anytime a guy would get suspended for anything else, why is Rashee Rice still playing? And I'd make that same explanation. But once he pleads guilty, it's time to accelerate. And I think at the end of the day, and I think you agree with me on this, at the end of the day, the bottom line is somebody's head was up their ass in the league office, and they didn't move the moment that Rashee Rice pleaded guilty. They didn't immediately say, we got to set this process in motion.
I look at it a little bit differently. What I look at it as, the reason it was not simple and done was because of what you alluded to earlier. I think that and again, this is naked speculation, okay? I want to be clear. You have real sources. I have a fake news hat. The hat is fake. The news is real. But I'm not putting the fake news hat on right now. This is just me guessing. It would, from what I've read, that the league wanted to suspend Rashee for at least 8 and maybe 10, and he wasn't going to accept that, which is what necessitated the proceeding, not trial, but the hearing, pardon me. And I think their misstep was in not seeing coming down the tracks, wait, we are going to need a hearing for this. We need to make sure the hearing can happen before the season. That part, I think, is legitimate. I don't think it's because somebody in the league office crunched the numbers and was like, man, Nobody's going to watch Chiefs Eagles if Rashee Rice isn't there. And I thought, and I do think there has been a little bit of Chiefs derangement syndrome is the phrase I've used, where what is to me true, and I think you will agree, pro football is an incredibly difficult sport to officiate. And any game that is a standalone national TV game that is tightly contested, you can find a play or two that was miscalled or improperly called. And because the Chiefs last year played almost all of their games in standalone national windows, and all of them were close, if you wanted to create a narrative of, you know what I mean, they get all the calls, you had the opportunity. And that, to me, then fed into what reached a fevered pitch. But the only good part of the Chiefs not winning last year's Super Bowl is now it's the Eagles' turn. And, hey, let's take a look at that tush push, because they sure have been jumping off sides for 4 years on it. And now, all of a sudden, they're in a big window. Brady points it out. Blandino gets mad at it. And I will bet you money that in the coming weeks, you see for the first time in quite some time, 4th and inches from the 1 yard line, or 4th and goal from the 1 yard line. Oh, man, it's now 4th and goal from the 6, because something that the Eagles have been doing for years got a spotlight pointed at it, and now the refs are extra attuned to it.
I agree with everything you're saying. And look, I've never believed there was any type of conspiracy to help the Chiefs. The NFL doesn't rig games. The NFL doesn't need to rig games. First of all, as a practical matter, it's impossible to pull it off. Too many people have to be involved. The NFL is not competent enough to rig games. Secondly, they don't need to. It doesn't matter. This isn't small market, big market. We need this team. We need that team. The Super Bowl is going to do the number that it does, regardless of whether or not it's the Chiefs and the Eagles or the Jaguars and the Cardinals. All due respect to the Jaguars and the Cardinals, the people are going to tune in, because the process of earning your spot in the Super Bowl, you build momentum, you build interest, you build that. It's not like they randomly pick teams out of a hat.
Correct.
The teams that get there have earned it on the field, so we're interested in them by the time January and February roll around. So I never bought that. I just thought it was a manifestation of Chiefs fatigue, just like Patriots fatigue, and just like Eagles fatigue is going to happen. It's just we get tired of the same old thing. Give one of the other kids a turn. The problem is one of the other kids has to take their turn. They have to take it away like the Eagles have taken it away from the Chiefs, at least over the last 2 times they've met.
Yeah, listen, and listen, again, I'm born and raised in Kansas City. I'm a little partial. I would draw a distinction between Chiefs fatigue and Patriots fatigue in this. The Patriots literally were found guilty of cheating 2 separate times and penalized for it. And while the Eagles are not, doing anything against the rules, they are a half dozen times a game changing the sport they play to rugby, which is not what I would call aesthetically pleasing, but as of now, still legal.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.